All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. Give it one more minute. Let some folks sneak into the meeting here. Oh, sorry about that. Double tasking. I'm going to check out. So I'm actually opening up right now the project page where the public is all meeting. I'm going to go to the same page where you all are meeting at, just to check out a couple things. Is also where you can do the live chat. And so if you are here watching this live from the project page, what we call the project page, but of the public input live URL, you can go ahead and you'll see that we'll be live there. And on the side is a comment box. So just get yourself oriented there. You can go ahead and make any comments. We'll see those as you're if you have any comments, and we'll make sure that we respond back to those as a little bit of a Q&A towards the end of this call. So,
do we need to connect the phone bridge?
Yes, we do need to connect the phone bridge.
Okay.
Are you able to do that?
Let's see here.
Thanks for doing that. So the phone bridge actually, so Sophie's talking about here is that the ability for you all to be able to call in to the meeting and listen to the meeting. So one thing that we do here at Public Input is have multiple and redundant opportunities for the public to participate in events. So if, or any kind of engagement initiative. So if you are participating right now on a computer and you need to run to the store, you can throw in your earbuds, call in, and you can listen to the meeting. You can even hit *2 or *3 and be able to speak live into the meeting, enter the meeting queue or the speaker queue, and we can let you into the meeting here at the end to be able to do that. So perfect. Were you able to get the phone bridge all hooked up?
I think I did. Yeah, I think it's connecting right now. It's
cool. Well, either way, we'll get started here since we are 2 after, and I want to make sure that we have enough time for Q&A. We try to keep these sessions, this is Public Input Live, try to keep these Friday sessions around 20 minutes or so, 15 to 20 minutes. And the goal here is to talk about best practices regarding public engagements, and then also show a little bit of a demonstration of how you can implement those best practices using the Public Input platform. So welcome, everybody. So glad that you joined us here today. And to get our bearings, I'm going to go ahead and let my co-host introduce herself. So Sophie, tell us a little bit about what you do here.
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Sophie Bitar. I'm a solutions architect at Public Input. So I work with the sales team and I work with prospective customers just to kind of help scope out solutions. And I lead platform demonstrations. Excellent.
Thank you, thank you. And myself, my name is Michael Murphy, and I am a partnership director. It's just fancy title for working with consultants pretty deeply, developing good relationships. We got a team that supports consultants in those efforts. So there's a consultant out there that is interested in leveraging some of the tools that you see here today. You can reach out to us, and I'll have at the end of this presentation, we'll have a slide that'll have my contact information. You're able to reach out. We can go ahead and talk about what that might look like to support your efforts, your engagement efforts for any project you might dive into. Cool. Well, we'll get started with the content today, but I want to get our bearings a little bit. We've been kind of going on a journey through different types of engagement around public engagement through, like, first it's like reach. Let's see if I have that here as a slide. I'm going to go ahead and check it out, see if I've got that one as a slide. Perfect. So start with outreach, and we talked about ways that you can make sure that you're sharing information in a way that's accessible to the public. We talked about that in the first couple sessions. And we talked about input or engage, where you're actually making sure that you have multiple and redundant ways for the public to actually provide that information. And then we're getting into analysis, which is what we're doing here today. And we did that a little bit last week when we talked about equity mapping. And the week before, we talked about comment clouds and comment tagging. So there's a lot of different tools that we have available. If you haven't checked out some of the other Public Input Live sessions, this is the journey we've been going through over the last several weeks, and we are in week 8 here today. And we're finishing up kind of talking about analysis. Now, just general best practices, we're going to show some of those on our platform, and then I'll show you how you can do those. But in general, some of the things to keep in mind when you're doing best practices regarding analysis or trying to understand your engagement is it makes it way easier if you use less tech than more tech. Obviously, you want like a high power tech that's going to have a lot of capability. But the issue with having a lot of different components that aren't kind of in one place is that the data aggregation portion of that can be quite tedious. A lot of hours put into creating spreadsheets and all that. But not only that, it also makes it a little bit more, makes it more difficult to be confident in the information that you got receiving in, because do I have the most updated spreadsheet, or is this the one we downloaded last week? And you're not sure exactly what you've got there. Also, another best practice we'll show here today, I think Sophie's got an example of it, is the way that you can actually present results to the public. Let's say you've created a space where they've come and actually engaged. You can also show the results of that data or that engagement as you go through maybe different phases of your project. This is something that's a little bit more difficult to do if every time you're doing some kind of engagement, you're sending them to some different, I guess, like surveying technology, maybe like a Survey Monkey or something, and they go over there to take the survey. It's like, well, then they're getting used to going to Survey Monkey, but where are they going to go to find the results and see the data? We're going to show a kind of a best practice around creating a space where all of that information is housed and sharing information about your project or your engagement efforts. So excellent. That's what we're going to be going over today. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sophie to go ahead and show us some of those best practices and show us how you can actually do this within the Public Input platform. Take it away, Sophie.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So we are in the back end right here. We're on the results and data tab. So if this is the first report we're building, or if we want to kind of start from scratch, we'll hit this green button right here to create a new report. And this will get us to a blank slate where we can start slicing and dicing the data. And I think we'll actually walk through that at the end here. But of course, it's usually a little easier to demonstrate this with an actual report. So I've got one pulled up here. Here's an example of a really good report. This is a full report. So we were looking at a specific project, Envision 2050 here. And I'll point out, I will highlight a few things here. First being that they used our participant mapping feature that we went over last time in last week's session. So they were able to kind of take a map of their engagement, add that directly to the report. And of course, we can zoom in if we want to. We can kind of toggle the view and get some detail there with that.
That's great. And if you missed that, go over to watch episode or session, I believe it's session 7. We're in session 8 today. So it's just last week where we went participant mapping and talked about the power of that. So check that out for a little bit more detail on that.
So scrolling down, here are the actual results of the survey. So this initiative is about envisioning how the community could look in 30 years. So they asked their residents to rank a couple of values by most important to you to least important to you. So here is a good visual of that. So it looks like sustainability here was ranked number 1, and we know that because its rank is 2.41. So it's closer to the number 1, which just means 1 being the top priority, the number 1 priority. And then, yeah, did you want to add something, Murphy, about doing a second survey with this?
Yeah, so this is interesting because it's a ranking question, and we got great participation on this. You see below, there's about 400 respondents participated in this, but the ranking itself didn't give a clear winner, right? So there's you can see here that some things are pretty close. And so you might want to go back and do another survey where you're going back out to folks where you're asking maybe they pick one as a preference instead of maybe a ranking where there's a little bit more conditional. So there's some different things that you can do there. If you have a technology where you're actually capturing contact information or offering them to offer contact information, and that platform also has communication tech, you can reach back out to them really quick and say, like, need a little clarity on this, really appreciate your participation. If you wouldn't mind answering this additional question, it will really help us with our results and makes decisions on the next phases of our project. So this is one of those places where I think if I was running this initiative, I may want a little bit more detail to understand this a little bit deeper.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for adding that context there. So that's a really good application of kind of how that would work in real life. So going down, here's a great example of the comment cloud. We talked about that, and I think it was 2 sessions ago. We did some comment sentiment analysis here. So it looks like they also had a comment section set up in the survey. So with this, we can really visualize what folks were choosing to say in the comments, and we could even compare this with how people ranked these topics and see if there's some consistency with that. Or maybe there was something that we missed that folks wrote in the comments like, hey, this wasn't an option on our on the ranking question before, but we really value this as well. So this is kind of a great sort of visual of just to kind of see what folks were talking about in the comments and be able to understand some high level themes there.
I like that too. So that there is asking, what are they doing right? One or two things, and you can see what kind of some common consensus around some of that. It's like engagement's good. And obviously they use the public input platform, so I'm going to press that a little bit. That's a pretty high ranking there, that their engagement's going well, but also sustainability and infrastructure, but maybe could do a little bit better on homelessness. But it was mentioned in something that they're doing right. So maybe they want to actually, a small bubble doesn't mean that they're doing bad on it. It means that they're not doing as good on that. But you probably want to ask a question, and maybe they did, on something like, hey, where could we improve? Those are the things you may really want to focus on. But they're doing a great job here in this community for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll scroll down the last graph, or kind of like, wool graph, and which is a spider graph right here. This will be kind of the last one I show. So this is super useful to understand sort of what demographics we're reaching and who we're not reaching as much. So we can compare our participation, those that responded to this specific question in the survey, what is your age? We can compare those respondents to census data to be able to see, like, okay, it looks like we're slightly overrepresented in age 25-year-olds to 44-year-olds. Definitely, great participation in the 65 plus category here. We might be a little bit overrepresented, but that's, at least we got some really good participation with that. But maybe there's some opportunity here to kind of target or market to some of these younger folks here. So we can use this as a way to kind of understand how well we did on our strategy and how well we did in terms of sort of including different demographics in our survey.
That's great. And making sure we're trying to striving towards a representative audience of participation, right? You can see here underrepresented in some different ways. A couple things I noticed on this was some folks say like, tech, like, if over 65, like they cannot possibly do any kind of tech or anything or something. It's like, no one's going to do an online survey. Fantastic participation. Just want to underline that. And actually where they think most people play is like the younger crowd. It's like they didn't really participate at all. How could we reach them? I joked when I was talking to Sophie about this the other day. I was like, well, we need to figure out how to do like TikTok or something. Like that's something all the kids are doing these days or something. So anyways, these types of breakdowns can be really useful in developing a strategy, and they're pretty easy to build if you've got the right tech stack. Yeah, perfect.
Definitely. So I'm going to scroll back up. The last thing I will point out on this page too, or maybe two more things I'll point out on this page. If you'll notice, this report right here is labeled as a complete report. So it's showing the results for all participants of this survey. But if we wanted to filter this out and see how different segments of our community responded, we always have that option to do so. We can come up here to this options button and choose this filter. And then at that point, we can kind of select which segment we want to filter this report out here. And if I go back to the back end, we can see that they did actually do that. So they built a complete report, and then they built a couple of filtered reports by a couple of different demographics that they were interested in understanding, how these different segments of their community responded to that survey. And we could even do it for an individual question as well. So if I scroll over here, we can see there's a filter option for any one of these questions too.
Yeah.
The last thing,
I want to highlight, well, I was just thinking that folks may not be able to see because it's in the top right-hand corner there. But there is a drop down. I think maybe our faces are right over that bubble, but it's in the top right-hand corner where you have some options that drop down where you can get the filtering And there's also a share button that Sophie's about to share, but you may not be able to see that up there as well. But
Yeah. Yeah, so there is a share button, and if we click that share button, it's going to bring up a couple of different ways that we can share this report out. So, if you've got if you need to share this out with your team, or maybe you need to share this out to stakeholders, but they don't have a login and they don't have admin access to the platform because they don't, maybe they don't necessarily need it, totally fine. We can still share these reports out via a simple link right here. And if they want to, if this project is live and they kind of want to keep, track along with the project and see how it's, they want like an update of this project, all they'd have to do is kind of keep coming back to this link and they can see these results update live. So it's pretty neat. It's pretty good. It's a good way to kind of avoid the question of, can we get an update on this? Which I know can sometimes be, it can involve a lot of work.
yeah, I was actually talking to a consultant once that they're like, it's the worst thing we can hear is the project director or someone give us a call and be like, hey, can I get an update? It's like a real quick question, and you're like, oh no, because it might mean, downloading data from a bunch of different sources and trying to compile it all together, and then having someone like build out some, some spreadsheets and create some macros and create charts that look nice, and then put it into a document that can be shared. And it's like 2 days worth of work for one quick question. I think Sophie kind of highlighted that you could create a report any way that you wanted it to look here, and then just get a link and share that. And one thing that we may or may not have mentioned yet, but these are dynamic reports, so they can be continuously updated. So you can actually create a report with the information you think might be most interesting to them, send it over to save you the kind of that inbound question, because anytime they're curious, they can just go ahead and reload that URL and they'll see the latest report, the latest update on what's going on.
Yeah, awesome. Another way we can share these reports out, or maybe we just want to share like one of these graphs, or the results for one of the questions here, is through this embed code. So we could just kind of grab this, copy, paste it back on a website, back on the project page that we built, or kind of anywhere that supports these embed codes here to be able to show that. And we do actually have, I believe it's this tab right here. We do have a project here where they did go ahead and kind of post these results back onto that project page. So you can see this is a great way to just kind of show transparency, like, thanks for participating in our survey. Here's the results. If you're curious, here's how folks responded. And it's a great way to kind of inform the public and inform your residents that, we're not just garnering your input or trying to get your feedback and doing nothing with it. These are, this is kind of the data that we're using to be able to make the most informed decisions based on your input, based on your feedback for us.
And this is one of those things I was talking about kind of as a best practice as well, is this has been a destination for people in the community to get information about this particular engagement effort, or in this case, it looks like it was a master plan. And so if this is where people have been coming to get that information, it's really easy to just continue that dialogue by sharing the results of the survey there as well, to be super transparent, and even see all the other comments and things that were going on. You see that they've decided to share comments publicly with no name associated with the comment or anything, but you can see that people are agreeing with those comments and that sort of thing. So yeah, this is a really solid example. And then obviously you can continue if there's another phase of this project as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So cool. We'll go back. Do we want to really quick just kind of create a report here?
Yeah, I think that's good, because one of the things when it comes to doing this type of thing, and you're looking at, how long it can take to develop a report that can be shared, especially if you're trying to create that yourself. And I wanted to show, this is a pretty high participation project. It's one that was done right during the COVID, and folks were start of COVID. This particular county was really interested in trying to support their community, and they got a lot of participation. And I want to show how fast you could create a report to help you start understanding that participation. So look, we'll just go ahead and create a report here right now. It may take a moment since we're live streaming here together, but we're actually generating the report, and this is how fast you could actually do that in real time. So we're looking at the results and we're already seeing some charts being built. We're going to see the chart there showing the density of engagement. So you see it's Hillsborough County happens to be in Florida. So you're seeing that real deep engagement down there in that community. And obviously there's the hot spot. So that makes sense because we know where this is at. And then of course, below that, you've got the charts to help you start understanding different participation. And guys, we had 12,000 responses to that particular question, and we were able to create that chart very quickly to help understand what was going on. And of course, you can create any number of these, like we saw, like Sophie had just shown. You can create any number of these and then share those with different folks that may be interested in different data or different views. And this can really help you just kind of make decisions as you're going through your project to help influence your strategy, or just get deeper into the data by doing some of the filtering that Sophia talked about.
Yeah. And even these charts right here are they're essentially widgets. So we can move these around if we want to. Maybe we want to display this one first. Or maybe there's a chart in here or something, a graphic in here that we want to add. We can do so by, hitting this plus sign. So this is super customizable as well, so in terms of the format and how we set this up.
That's a good point. It's like you can, as you're creating a report, you can add things to it. Maybe you needed a little dialogue before you introduce the question that you were asking. Maybe you're letting someone know why you're asking that question or something. You can just easily pop that in there, add some text, do whatever you want, get that look and feel that you're looking for. Yeah, and then you can also change these from, a lot of these are kind of like bar charts. You can change them to pie charts and graphs and different ways by just clicking the options and changing some of those things. So
yeah, really good stuff.
Perfect.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'll go ahead and stop sharing. That's all we plan to share today.
Perfect. Well, let me go ahead and throw up the last page, my screen share here, where I share our contact information. So if you need to get a hold of me, you can do so, or if you're interested in talking and discussing any of this at all, you can email me at michael@publicinput.com, and we can start the discussion. I can put you in contact, whoever can help you the best. So shoot me a line. Happy to take care of you. If you are interested in learning about the Public Input platform and like the breadth of it, we do have a certification program that you can apply for, and we can get you hooked up with that, give you all the resources you need, and give you access to our platform to create in the platform so you get your hands on it. You can do that by going to publicinput.com/get certified. There's a little application page there, and you send that in. I'll get that information, and then we'll be in touch on the next steps of that process. So great summary today. Appreciate the support, Soph. As we always do, I think we're coming up towards the end of our live sessions that we were doing every Friday, but why don't we tell them what we're going to be doing next week?
Yeah, so next week will be our last live session, and we are going to be talking about our communications module that we have. So basically, our communications tool as part of the platform. So useful for any kind of email or text outbound campaigns can be run through that. Following up with folks, managing any of those subscriber lists. Really useful tool to be able to have that as part of the entire platform. So we'll kind of dive into that next week.
Yeah, you're not going to want to miss that because it is super powerful for projects, but even more so for agencies that use the platform for multiple engagements. So while we're going to talk about just general best practices around using some different mass communications software, there are some real benefits to what Public Input can bring and add some efficiencies to that process. So we'll be, of course, showing that off as well. Perfect. Well, let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to leave this up, but I'm going to look at our project page to see if our meeting site, see if we've got any comments. And if you do have any comments, go ahead and let me know. I'm going to go ahead and sign in as well because I am not signed in. So are you signed in to see if we have anybody that's called into this particular meeting?
Let me take a look. I might have to mute, otherwise it's going to do an echo.
Oh, yeah, no worries. I'm taking a look here. All right. I just took a look. So I found it. I just signed in and I can see here. Doesn't look like we have any calls, anybody that called in. And we are looking at, perfect. We are set I don't see any additional comments. If there are any questions or comments, you can go ahead and put them there. But and we'll hang out here. And by the way, as soon as we close this live feed, we can still see those comments. So if you want to, you can go ahead and leave those comments. No problem at all. Thank you so much for joining us here. We hope to catch you again here next week. We'll be doing the conversation about mass communications to keep in touch with those folks and close the feedback loop. Super important part of the process. Look forward to doing that with you here next week. But until then, we wish you successful engagements.